Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Totally 90s podcast. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Steph.
And I'm Justine.
Hey Neen, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Oh, gosh, we're recording at night, which is weird.
I know, I'm straight up in my PJs, cozy.
Okay, I should have come in my PJs. Shoot. But it's a nice vibe. It's a nice ambiance. I like it.
I like it. I might light a candle, especially because we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff tonight.
Yes, we are, but I'm very excited
I
to
am
talk about it.
too. Yes. So, I don't know if you guys remember from our earlier one of our maybe our first episode even we talked about the possibility of um sharing some true crime episodes of things that happened in the 90s, and not just in the 90s but things that really stuck with us. um and what better thing, not thing, but what better way to kick
Mhm.
off this like series? And we're not going to say we're going to do it like once a month. Maybe we'll do it quarterly. Maybe we
Right.
will do it once a month. I don't know. We'll see how this goes and we'll see how you guys like it. So please let us know on our Instagram.
Yes.
But we are going to kick things off by talking about Polly Klaas. So yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, that's
Yes,
a that's a deep topic
it
because
is.
it was very, very like it was a huge one when we were younger. So we were how old when this happened? It was in
Yeah,
1990.
1993.
Wow. So we were
Yeah.
how old were we? 12?
Yes,
So we're the
correct.
same age as Polly.
Yes.
We were born in 1981.
Yep. We're all 80s babies. And before we even jump into this, I do want to give some trigger warnings for kidnapping of a child
Hmm.
and alleged sexual assault of a child. So let's get
Yes.
that out there. And if that's something you can't handle, maybe join us
S-
next time.
Exactly. Skip to the next episode.
Go listen to some light takes on 90s music because we have that
Okay.
that dropped already.
For real, some nice boy bands that you might want to hear about.
Hey. Oh
But
my
it is, I mean,
goodness.
I think we should just jump right into it because it is a lot of content and it's a
It
really
is.
heavy topic.
Yes.
So do your
Super.
thing, girl.
All right, Miss Thing, and please jump in.
Yes, of course.
But yes, so like I said, like we said, we're going to be talking about Polly, and just I want to give you a little bit of background first. So, before we talk about like the awfulness. So,
Hmm.
Polly Hannah Klaas was born on January 3rd, 1981. So she is in fact our age, same year and everything. She was born in the Bay Area in Fairfax. Her parents were Mark Klaas and Eve Nichols, but they separated when she was really little. And so as a result, she has some half siblings. So she's got her younger sister, Annie, and her sister, Jess, who was the same age as Polly.
Hmm.
And we got to know Polly because she was unfortunately kidnapped and murdered when she was just 12 years old. And the way that it happened was absolutely horrific and terrifying. I mean, in itself, but also because it happened in our backyard. It happened in Petaluma, California, which is literally just past the bridge.
Hmm.
And it happened in her own bedroom. So,
Yeah.
again, before we even do all that, let's just share some nice positive things. Polly was very much like you and I. She was
Hmm.
super creative. She was
Very.
outgoing. She had, her friends who she loved to be with. I
Hmm.
actually, I don't know if you saw that, but she loved to act and was in a lot of
Hmm.
school plays.
Exactly. She was really into theater.
Yeah, very artistic. And I think, and thinking about, because she's always stayed with us, even now we're in our 40s, and literally
Yeah.
every year on the anniversary of her abduction, I don't know why the abduction, not on her birthday, but on the abduction, she's in my mind. So,
Oh,
and I think it's because we're so similar, because she was just your typical preteen,
hmm.
and she just was
Exactly.
loving and living her life.
And during that time, like that's when we were doing slumber parties too.
Yes.
So it was, I mean, and like a lot of parents, I mean, it's funny. I don't know if I told you this. Presley got invited to her first slumber party. And it's only going to be her and another friend. So, and I know the parents really well. So I'm going to give it a try.
Oh my
But I
gosh.
think Presley might call me and be like, pick me up. But you don't really hear about slumber parties that much anymore. Like,
No.
remember, it was like, let's get your sleeping bag, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
my mom never let me sleep over anyone's house except yours. That's it. Or like, I think my cousins, that was it.
Yeah,
But, I think that's why it hit so close to home for us, is because a lot of things she was doing were the things that we were doing at that same time.
definitely.
So it was
And
scary. That was like our worst nightmare.
no, and it was just like I see it in my head the way that like it went down. I can see it. If I just close my eyes, I can picture it. It's terrifying to me. And I think that's why I hate being alone to this day in my own
Mm-hmm.
house. Like I just feel like I'm just going to open the door and find a stranger. So like
Definitely.
that's exactly what happened to her. So she is just, it's a Friday night. It's
Mm-hmm.
October 1st. She is in her house. She's getting ready to have a sleepover with her two besties, Kate and Jillian. So we're going to hear their name a
Mm-hmm.
lot. They were playing dress up. They were, getting excited for Halloween, like putting makeup on each other, just having a grand old time. And as I started getting sleepy, because when you're having a slumber party, you do kind of power out. So they were
Right.
reaching that point, and it was like before 11.
Mm-hmm.
Polly gets up to open the door to her bedroom, I think to get a sleeping bag or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when she opens the door, there's a man standing like on the other side. And it's this big
Chills.
man filling the door frame. Okay, just I
Oh
want you to picture
God.
that. And and he's there and he's holding a knife. So not only is a stranger in your house, he's also holding a knife and he's looking back at you when you don't expect anyone to be there. So that is literally my biggest nightmare. And I'm telling you, when
Mm-hmm.
Kara goes out of town, I check all the closets and everything because I see this image. Sorry, my dogs are
Mm-hmm.
barking. And it terrifies me. So, anyways, this
Mm-hmm.
is happening for whatever reason. I think maybe because she was playful, Kate and
Mm-hmm.
Jillian thought that Polly was playing a prank on them.
Yeah.
So they were
Wow.
like, whatever. But then they see the knife and they're like, oh God, okay.
Does
This is not a
it say if they screamed? Because I know if we saw someone, we would have screamed bloody murder. Or did they
no.
not? Because they thought it was a
They
joke.
they thought it was a joke, and he immediately apparently he said, don't scream. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm just here for money.
Wow.
So he was like, and he kept saying, he stressed that he was not going to hurt anyone. So then he's like, who lives here? And then Polly says, I do. This is my house. And then he said, is anyone else here? And she says, my mom and my sister. So her
Wow.
mom actually earlier in the night, she had gone to bed a little, like maybe an hour or so earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and she was suffering from a migraine. So she had taken like a prescription for that migraine. And she may have had a glass of wine at some point in the night, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if that's been proven.
Mm-hmm.
But so this maybe factors into why
Right.
she didn't hear anything. So,
Exactly. But those migraine medications
oh
sometimes
yeah,
are freaking, they will knock you out. I mean, it's to where
no,
your brain feels numb. So,
exactly.
I mean,
I can vouch for that as well because I have
mhm,
migraine medication, and if I take one, I can't go anywhere, and I'm
right.
out for the count.
Exactly.
I don't hear anything. I wake up the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So she was out, and so was her youngest sister. They were sleeping in the same in her bedroom, the mom's bedroom, which was
Mm-hmm.
literally mean it was a couple steps away, which
Wow.
breaks my heart. So all this is happening. Mom and sister are sleeping down the hall, and Polly, listening to the fact that he said, I want money,
Mm-hmm.
she offers him $50 or something like that from her little jewelry box,
Oh.
which absolutely
Ay, ay,
kills
ay.
me. And he didn't he didn't take it. He was like, no, I don't want that. So he cut fabric or something, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even like cords from a Nintendo,
Right.
and tied up her two friends and put pillowcases over their heads. And
Mm-hmm.
then he picked Polly up and said, count to 1,000 to the two girls. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time you're done counting, Polly will be back. I'll be gone. But while they were counting, they heard the door, the front door open and close, and they knew, okay, she's gone.
Right.
Like, this guy was not going to have her, take him around the house to get valuables. He's gone. He's not coming back.
Right.
So, all right. So this happens. It's slightly before 11 o'clock. Okay. So mom, sister, snoring away. The two girls are just, oh my God, I commend them because they like reacted fast. They worked hard to like free themselves of their bindings, and then they ran down the hall to wake up Eve. And they first spend time, like just a few minutes, like searching the house, and they, just to make sure that Polly wasn't there. She wasn't. And they call the cops. So whenever I like hear about like 911 calls or whatever, I like on podcasts and stuff like that, I don't ever, 9 times out of 10, they're really bad. Like, it's like they don't route the calls, or like something happens, or the cops say, call back when it's been 48 hours.
Right.
But in this case, the cops came right over. So Petaluma police, they were there.
Kudos.
Thank goodness. So they came, and this is all within the hour still. Okay. So like, we're not a lot of time has passed. Maybe they had gotten Polly and this man, who later on we find out is Richard Allen Davis. They're gone. They have a 20-minute start. Wow. Roughly. The cops loop in the FBI like fairly quickly. Yeah. And let's remember, this is in the 90s. Okay. So they don't have the tools that we have today. So they're doing it old school. They get the two best friends, Kate and Jillian, and they say, you need to tell us everything, like what he looks like and all the details you can remember. And they were able to get a composite sketch from what they said.
Which is great, because I mean, that's fresh in their brain.
And have you seen that composite sketch?
Yes, it's spot on.
It's like, it's insanity. And you know what? I think this case is what started my fear of like, if I see a composite sketch on the news at night, I get freaked out. Like, I have to change the channel. Right? It's so scary.
Oh, and for real, not like the one of the meme I showed you a couple weeks ago.
No.
Oh God.
That will always kill me. Like, every time I see it, it's just hilarious and fresh.
For real, the sketch looked like Doug.
Oh, I died laughing. Oh my God, I thought that too. That's hilarious. But no, anyways, this sketch did not look like that. This looked dead on like this mofo. So they have that. Cops are like all over Polly's room, examining it, dusting it for prints and whatnot. And they came across an unknown palm print. Like, and I'm saying unknown because like later on they tested it, and all the random fingerprints throughout were of the family and friends and stuff. But this one palm print was there, and it didn't tie back to like no one, like the dad, nothing. So they have this palm print and they set it aside because they don't have anything right now to compare it to put it to the side. And so this is all that everyone's bustling about. And it's a known fact that if you don't find someone within the first 48 or 72 hours after they've been taken, chances are you probably won't find them alive. So they know that time is of the essence. So they're working extremely quickly. Okay. So in the meantime, and this is the part where we're going to get really, really pissed. Okay. And we're going to get pissed a lot. Okay. So get ready. So there were sightings of this man. Okay. So now, and I know, and everyone knows, because this case, is 20 years old, that this man is Richard Allen Davis, but the police don't know that yet. No one else knows yet. Okay. So the police they're canvassing the neighborhood, and they came across several people that had seen a strange man hanging around. Okay.
See, it really does piss me off. And actually I'm getting goosebumps because it's infuriating. Go ahead, Steph.
It is. And for whatever reason, and call it the bystander effect, meaning that someone else will do it, but whatever.
Right. You don't want to get involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't call the cops. One kid saw this strange man standing outside of Polly's home. when he went to the video store, some store. He went to the store and he saw this creep standing outside of Polly's house. When he got out of the store, the man was still there. Okay, so that's sighting number one.
Wow.
Another girl saw the same man, or described the same stranger,
Mhm.
carrying a big bag of some sort in his arms. And
Mhm.
then Kate's mom had actually had a run-in with this man, with Richard Allen Davis. And it was when she had dropped, or after she dropped Kate off at the
Mhm.
house. He apparently almost ran into her car while carrying the same bag that everyone reported him holding. But the
Wow.
one that gets me is a neighbor. A neighbor saw a strange man on the back porch of Polly's
Because
home.
because it was an in-law, correct? That's what
Um,
I heard. I don't know if that's true, but I heard it was like an in-law, or like a, like a tiny house in the back of their house. Maybe it was a
that sounds
neighbor's
about
house
right.
or something like
Yeah.
that, but I mean, that's too close to for comfort. I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
No, like if I see someone strange, like, see, I will call the cops. Like, I'm
And I
sorry.
and just in I mean, let this be a lesson to everyone, that's why, cuz I mean, I don't know any of my neighbors, but I think I'm about to. Okay? Because I think that it's, nowadays we're very like to ourselves, and
Yeah.
we don't want to get involved, or we don't, we're just hermits. We
No,
don't need to know
yeah.
Sally and Joe across the street. I'm not going to bring them cookies, you
No,
know.
I don't want to
But
borrow sugar from them.
no, okay. But when you hear a story like this, and even though it
Yeah.
was in the 90s, it brings up the point of excuse me, I have a cold. um, but it brings up the point of how important it is to be aware of your surroundings, like, not be a nosy neighbor, but be aware of what your neighbors look like, who's coming in and out.
Mhm.
When you have that nosy neighbor and everybody gets annoyed with Larry down the street because he's always looking out his window,
Yeah.
maybe Larry's doing that for a reason. And
Maybe
chances are,
Larry's going to stay alive.
thank you. Chances are, if something happened, Larry will know what went down. And
Hmm.
Larry will call the cops if he sees something that's not, lining up. And I think that stresses that we should all kind of get to know our neighbors, or at least get a number, know the names. You know what I mean? So this way, if something happens, oh, someone's at your back door.
Ugh.
You know, I don't know if you know them, but just wanted to let you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
it's smart. Doesn't mean you have to have tea with them, but at least for your own security, and it makes you feel safe in a sense.
Yeah.
Okay, my neighbors got my back.
Yeah.
Because that night
Completely.
they did not have nobody's back.
No. And like, even, I mean, I gotta give like the first kid a little bit of credit, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old he was, but at least he noticed it and was able to like later on say, yeah, I actually did see someone. Because maybe
Right.
kids don't think like, oh, I need to like tell somebody about this. They'll
Exactly.
just, but because who really is going to notice if you're going to go to the store or the movie, like, or to go rent videos or whatever, like, you're
Mm-hmm.
excited to go get your movie. Kids
Right.
are, for the most part.
Exactly.
So props to the kid, but
Yeah.
like the
He's probably a
neighbor can
private
go to hell.
investigator now.
He probably is, but that
Okay.
neighbor can go straight to hell. That's
Thank
all. Ugh.
you.
Yeah.
For real. Because I believe it wasn't just him. There was someone else um, with him. They were having drinks or something in the back.
Oh, hell.
So
I think you're right.
there was two
Yeah.
guys back there that could have easily either called the cops or been like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yes, exactly.
Come
Macho
on.
guy style. No. You're
Yes.
right.
Oh, anyways,
Well, now that I got your blood pressure up, I'm going to tell you
for
another
real, I feel
thing.
flush.
Yeah. So this next thing is, I
Mhm.
think pisses me off further, is a couple days after Polly went missing, her father, Mark, who literally breaks my freaking heart. Okay. Cause
Yep.
like, when I think about this case, I think about Polly, but I also think about her father, because
Hmm.
he was really the face of this whole like search, and he, like, the foundations, we'll talk about that later, but like, I
Hmm.
always think about him for whatever reason. He sticks with me more so than the mom, I think. But
Absolutely.
anyways, he received a phone call from a girl who sounded a lot like his daughter. Okay. She said she was Polly and that she was being held in a hotel room and that her kidnapper was not there at that moment. But then the call went dead and the poor dad was like, oh my God, what's happening? Right.
Mm.
So he calls the cops and reports this, and they set up a trace on his phone in case he gets another call, which he does. He gets another call a few days or sometime later. Same girl calls, the cops trace it to a random house, just a regular old house. They bust in with their guns blazing, and there's just this family, a normal family, maybe having their dinner. And come to find out, they realized that it was, or they didn't realize, their daughter came forward and said, oh, I had been, dared by my classmates to prank call and act like I was Polly.
Okay, you
Go
stinky
ahead.
ass little twit. Okay, I would have got you, bitch slapped you, and brought you to juvie myself if you were my kid. Okay, I can't handle it. Like when I heard that part, no. That's honestly, she should have been charged with something. I don't care how old she was. You don't do that. This is different than, calling someone saying, is your refrigerator running? This is, I mean, can you imagine the hope in Mark's head, to think, oh my God, this might be it. Right. And then to find that it's just a little witch, I swear, I want to find her now and slap the crap out of her and be like, what were you thinking? Can we have her like on Maury or something?
I wish we knew. I mean, I don't even know if she's our age, but I really hope that she's suffering from like guilt, for the rest of her life, that she just is plagued with chronic diarrhea forever. Like the worst. Okay. Or cramps 24/7.
Okay. Yeah. For real. I hope she has hemorrhoids galore, like grapes. Okay.
Yeah. Humongous.
Yes.
Humongous, rubbing up against each other.
Yes, with chafing and everything.
Ew.
My butt hurts. But you know what? She deserves it. Karma.
Yeah, karma. Don't worry, karma's looking out for all these fools.
Yes.
But back to the search. So that interlude. And so basically they're working around the clock. Okay, 24/7. There's a phone bank that's being, manned 24 hours a day. Flyers went out all over. Her dad, I think he even gave up his job. I think he worked in a dealership or owned a dealership. I can't remember what, but he basically ditched that and devoted his entire time to the search. And he was the face of her entire search party. I remember when I would see any sort of news coverage, I mostly saw him. I don't know if Eve was there, if Polly's mom was there, or if she was, she didn't say anything.
No, and that's so funny that you mentioned that because and I think we had talked about this before, that I didn't even know honestly, I don't remember her at all. She's not like other, kidnappings or murders that we've heard about in the past where both parents are highly involved. Honestly, I thought he was just a single dad because I didn't know the backstory.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and we'll talk about this after, but it was a little weird how things went down with her. Nowadays, it could be perceived differently with how the whole thing went down that night and, the migraine, her not being conscious, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought he was a single dad. I didn't know she was involved at all. I didn't even know she had, and that's crazy that her child was the same age as Polly.
Yeah.
So what was going on, Eve? Okay. Maybe that's why they're not together. Okay.
I don't know all about
Mark.
You, right?
Okay.
I have no
Team
idea,
Mark.
but Team Mark, hashtag Team Mark for real. He was just his poor little face and just everything. Oh my God. Okay. We're going to get more and more sympathetic for Mark as we go on. So this case was picking up some speed, and it's in a short amount of time too. It's not like months and months and months and months went on with the search, skipping ahead just a little bit. It came to a conclusion, I think 2 months later. So it was a span of 2 months, but a couple of weeks after the kidnapping, the case got even more attention when Winona Ryder got involved, because
Mm-hmm.
so she had been raised in Petaluma. She
Right.
offered a $200,000 reward for Polly's return. She spoke at a press conference or two. And
Wow.
she also helped in the search, I believe. I remember seeing her in one of the press conferences, and I was really moved by that. And
Yeah, she was all in it. Like, and that was big because we during that time, I mean, that she was at the top or actually the height of her career.
she sure was. I don't know if Reality Bites came out before or after, but like everything was about Winona. Like
Yeah.
I to this day love her because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, she's special, and
Yeah.
that made her feel even more human.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
I actually found out, and you probably saw that too, that when she starred in the film version of Little Women, she
Mm-hmm.
dedicated it to Polly's memory because that story was her favorite. So like
Yeah.
I thought that was really lovely.
No,
So
and
that
I
was,
I remember that too because that was one of my favorite movies.
yeah,
So
that's
when
one of
I
my
heard
favorite
that, I was
books.
like, right? And it was just like
Yeah.
gives me chills. It's just like
Yeah.
that's what is this whole thing was so humanized. Like a
Yeah.
lot of things that happen you hear about, they seem so far away, but because it was Petaluma and that's literally like
Yes.
a 40-minute, 45-minute drive from San Francisco on a
Yeah.
good day. It was so close to us, and then you hear Winona Ryder, all this stuff is just it's too close to home.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a big it kind of like blew the case up even more because of that
Mm-hmm.
star power. So that was good. But a couple weeks after that, so now we're in November. The police, Sonoma County, okay, so Petaluma County was where Polly was from and where she
Mm-hmm.
was taken. So remember that. So
Okay.
Petaluma police is the one that, called it in and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Sonoma County received a call from a woman named Dana Jaffe who lived in Sonoma County. She had a really huge estate, 100
Mm-hmm.
acres. Okay. And she was just kind of like walking around her property, and she saw some strange things
Mm-hmm.
there that they were totally out of place. And it was children's clothing, tights that were tied at the knee, and an unrolled condom and some other stuff. So she was like, well, hold up. Well, I don't know what this is. Let me call the cops. So the cops arrived, and she took them to where she found the item. She didn't touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, here's what it is. She also told them that she had caught a trespasser a couple months prior on October 1st at 11:45 p.m. Okay. So if you're remembering, Polly was taken on October 1st
Mm-hmm.
before 11. Okay. So her babysitter was the one who ran into this stranger. So she's
Mm-hmm.
driving down the long driveway, and she sees this Ford Pinto stuck in a ditch at the bottom of that driveway. She gets pissed.
Wait, did you
She,
say it was a Ford Pinto?
yes.
Of course it was. Sorry. Pintos are just that ride, that creepy. Either they
Right.
can't afford that car. That car is just not very
It's
popular.
no, it's
And
the
it's
equivalent
kind
of the
of,
white van. It's like
yes,
Ford Pinto, white van. Which one's scarier? Which one's the
exactly.
kidnapping vehicle? Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So this babysitter, rather than drive by, she sassed she swung her hoops, rolled her window down, and was like,
Dang.
WTF, who are you? This is private property. What are you doing here? And then
Dang.
he like got in her face. She was in her car. So she didn't, to her credit, she's still like, get the hell out of here.
She's a
And
badass.
he was total badass. And she's
Mhm.
like, this is private property. I'm going to call the cops. He was all, who lives here? And she's like, you need
Hell
to
no.
leave because I'm calling the cops right now. Now, it's not like she could just whip out her iPhone and call 911.
Right.
She had to go to a payphone. So she goes to a payphone. Okay. Not even tripping if homeboy is following him or
Okay.
her or not. Okay. Cause I would have been like, oh my God. So
For real,
like,
because I wouldn't even have stopped. I would have been like, hell
I
no.
would have driven all the way to the cops and like honked until
Yes.
someone came out. But like,
Exactly.
so she goes to a nearby payphone right away, calls Dana to give her a heads up because Dana's at home with her kid.
Yeah, for real.
So she's like, heads up, this creep is out here. And she's like, okay, let me call the cops. So the cops come right away. When they get there, the truck is, or whatever, the Pinto's there, but he's not. So they start looking around for this guy. And this fool comes out of the woods.
Hell
Okay. He
no.
comes out of the woods covered in dirt leaves, and he reeks of BO and
Mm-mm.
alcohol. So, come to
Wow.
find out, this man turned out to be Richard Allen Davis. Okay. October 1st. And at this point, it's 11:45 at night, almost midnight.
Mm.
So this is now an hour and a half, maybe hour and 15 minutes since Polly was taken from her home. Okay. So
Mm.
the cops are like, this guy's acting weird. And they also were like, it's weird that he's covered in dirt and leaves. So they're like, what are you doing here? This is private property. What's up? And he's
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just out sightseeing. Yeah. Okay. At midnight. Okay. That's fine. So,
Wow.
but they were like, we want to search your car. And he actually consented.
Mhm.
And they found opened cans of beer in the, rattling around in his Pinto. And they
Mhm.
asked if he had been drinking since he'd like stunk of alcohol.
Wow.
And what does this fool do? He grabs a can of Bud Light or whatever, cracks it open, and starts drinking in front of the cops.
Dang.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, do you think that they gave him a breathalyzer even though he did that?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah. And that's what I was just going to ask you. So he didn't even get sorry, there's my dogs. He didn't even get did he get taken away? Did he get
no,
arrested for drunk driving or well, he
nope.
wasn't driving.
No, he was like
Public intoxication on someone else's property?
nothing. So what happened was because they were satisfied. They had him do like the field sobriety exam or walk in a straight line and whatever, and he could.
Mhm.
So despite reeking of alcohol, being weird, and opening that can, which I'm surprised they didn't haul his ass in for that. They were satisfied that he could walk a straight line, so he wasn't intoxicated, according to these cops. Now they now get ready.
Mm.
They ran his driver's license information, right? But back then, the only thing that would be available would be the person's driving record. So that's not helpful. They
That's it?
ran, that's it.
Wow.
But
So
they ran,
they wouldn't even be able to see if he was like on parole or
correct.
oh my god.
And they also ran his license plate number,
Mhm.
but they transposed the numbers. So nothing
Ay
came up.
Dios. Seriously?
Yep. So what do you think they did?
Oh my gosh.
They just said, hi, have you ever been arrested?
Oh
And he
god.
said, uh-uh.
Uh,
And so Dana didn't want to press charges. She just wanted him gone. So despite him having a rap sheet the size of, I don't even know what, okay, like a
right.
huge, the size of
Scroll.
the size of a freaking Rite Aid receipt, okay?
Mhm. Okay.
Despite that,
Those damn coupons
for real.
that I never use.
Exactly. So, but despite all this and reeking of alcohol and being shady as hell, they let him go. They had nothing. But at this point, they had held him, like they had there anyways for some time, like
Mhm.
maybe 45 minutes. So they're like, we don't have anything to hold him on, so we're gonna have to let him go. So off he went.
Hmm.
Now, one thing that's really, really, really important to note. So Polly was kidnapped in Petaluma County, and Dana's run-in with Richard Allen Davis was less than an hour away, but it was in a different county. It was in Sonoma County. Okay.
Mhm.
So Sonoma PD had absolutely no idea that Petaluma PD had initiated a search for Polly Klaas. So, or that they were looking for someone that looked just like Richard or that was Richard Allen Davis until it was way too late. So there was no communication amongst the precincts and the counties. Okay. So
Was that just non-existent at that time or was it not working?
it was non-existent at that time. Like it wasn't on the same frequency or something, is what I had
Mhm.
read, like radio dispatch. It was like
Wow.
everyone to their own.
Yeah, because usually if that happens, especially nowadays, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, okay, keep a lookout for this person, blah blah blah,
Yeah,
and it's filtered throughout counties, throughout the state.
exactly.
Wow. That's a shame. I mean, at that point though, the police, did they ever, I wonder if they even asked, why do you have freaking leaves and crap in your hair?
Exactly. Well, I think they did. They're like, why are you covered in like dirt? And he was like, oh, my car. Like I was
That's
just
right. He
trying to,
was fixing it or
yeah, I
looking,
wanted to
whatever.
wedge some leaves under the tires to sort of get it out or some crap like that, which is like red flag number 25 in this conversation. Like what kind of crap? Like really? They bought that?
Just the fact that he cracked open that beer in front of them,
Right?
that would have been enough to be like, you need to come in. We're going to throw you in the sober tank.
Yes. And you would think that even back in the 90s, that would have been the case too, but I guess not.
And two, by this time, I'm sure he knows that someone obviously lives on that property, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, if you were Dana, wouldn't you want him to be thrown, like at least taken to jail or something?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I don't
maybe
know
she was
why
afraid that he was going to come back and like
retaliation. Probably that could have been the case. I mean, who, for all we know, these brilliant police officers that let him go probably asked Dana right in front of him, "Do you want to press charges, man?"
Yeah, no, that's true. Oh God.
So yeah, but like, so I can understand it, and maybe that was the case, but I couldn't find anything saying otherwise. So
it's so unfortunate.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going to travel back. So that happened. So she's relaying all this to this now, you know, to the people, the cops, looking at the weird stuff on her property. So now it's widely reported that this poor girl has been missing. And the sound of whoever the stranger was on the same night, they were like, like maybe it's the same guy. Okay. So they went ahead and let Petaluma PD know that they collected this weird stuff, and Petaluma came and did a search of the area for days because they were like, okay, this has got to be the guy. We have to investigate. So they went looking, you know, days around the surrounding area to look for her, to look for any other evidence. So they felt they were on the right track. But with the current evidence that they had, the description of the man, the composite sketch, they were like, this is him. Like they determined it was him.
Right.
I don't want to spend too much time on this mofo, but I will say, and I know that, you know, you and I were talking about this previously. He had a history of, you know, kidnapping, sexual assault, robbery, other things of that nature, for which he did serve time for. But it was like
he had 25 plus counts of burglary. 25.
Yep.
I can't even imagine doing one. Okay.
I know.
25. You know, just the fact that, and I read somewhere, and I quote me if I'm wrong, but I read somewhere there, 2 victims, like, I don't know, there was speculation that he could have also killed someone else.
Yes, there was.
See,
no. And it's like, didn't you feel like he would get like just little slaps on the wrists for like his crimes? And then like, you know, at the time of Polly's kidnapping, he was out just a couple of months after serving 8 years for a violent crime, which wasn't even his full sentence. Like he was just out and about, like whatever. And here I am in Petaluma, and apparently what brought him to Petaluma was the fact that his mom was in Petaluma or lived there. So maybe that explains a little bit as to why, you know, he was there in the first place.
Right.
But yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say about that man.
Yeah, he's not even worth, like, he's just a bad person that should never have been on the streets. Ever. I mean,
ever.
But you know, I don't know. Like we'll explain later, like people like him and this whole case really did bring a lot of things to light about how we need to change things back then, you know, and it was like the start of a new way in the judicial system and how we treat criminals of his, you know, I don't know what you would call it, with his rap, what do you call it?
Caliber.
Yes, caliber. That's the word I was looking for. It's just like scary guy, you know?
Yeah. His face, like it haunts me. It's something in the eyes. He has no soul, you know, like to do any of the things. I still
think of that when he's in the courtroom and he looks at the camera, and the way that he looks at the camera. Didn't he flip off the camera?
He flipped. And so like he, after the verdict, he flipped off the people that were there filming, and then he blew kisses and winked. Yeah. He's a real treat.
Yeah, like you said, I really don't want to like focus on him, but I just wanted to say this. I had read something where they said his, you know how when you put someone's name and it says like net worth? Well, I happened to just see it. So I was like, let me see. He's worth 1.5 million.
Are
How is
you
that
kidding me?
possible? Like, what do you,
Unbelievable.
I mean, and he's supposed to be, he was sentenced to death, right? So,
Yes.
I'm like, how do you make, I'm still trying. I mean, I took a quiz years ago where it says, how long will it take you to make a million in your life? And literally the quiz came back and said, ha ha ha, dang, that won't happen.
Did you shake a magic 8 ball?
I
Nice
wish,
try. Try again.
right? I wish it was, because it probably would have said maybe not this one. But I'm
Oh
like,
my
and he's there sitting
God.
in prison, okay?
Yeah,
And he
chilling.
has 1.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, there has to be like a rule or something that he's not entitled to that, correct?
Yeah,
Like
he
to be
could.
paid for crimes he committed. You know how authors want to like write tell-alls and like you're
Mhm.
supposed to get, but you're not, but the person who like committed the crimes aren't entitled to royalties from that
Right.
crime.
Because
Yeah.
along with that, they have tons of restitution and things that they
Yes,
have to
exactly.
pay. So,
Ugh,
whatever.
very
But
interesting though.
yeah, but
Yeah, but so like even though it's clear that he was the guy, like he's probably the one responsible for kidnapping Polly, they still and then that they were able to place him in the woods with her because, the evidence that
hmm
they found. They didn't have enough to arrest him yet. They wanted, a clean case, nothing wrong. They wanted to
right.
maybe even get a confession out of him. But they didn't have to wait long because since he's such a winner, he had a warrant out for his arrest for violating his parole because he had gotten a
Wow.
DUI. Yes, he did. He probably cracked open one too many beers while driving and
Ugh,
finally pissed off the wrong cop. But
right.
on November 30th of 93, he was arrested for violating said parole. So they toddle him on in for a lineup and bring in poor Kate and Jillian, Polly's best friends. And they were able to lickety split pick him out of that lineup, even though he at this point had shaved off his facial hair. So he didn't have
Wow.
that beard that he's known to have, remember the
Right.
bandana and all that
hmm
stuff. So
Wow.
they took his prints and law enforcement was able to match it to the palm print they had saved from her bedroom. So
hmm
now they were also able to place him in her bedroom on October 1st, 1993, but they still wanted that confession. This fool, okay, they didn't tell him that they had the prints matched. Okay, so they didn't tell him that.
hmm
He continued to deny having anything to do with her disappearance and was sticking with that story. So,
Wow.
all right. So they're just, they go around with this, guy for a while, nothing. I didn't have anything to do with it. So he goes off to his jail cell because he still violated his parole. So he's not going anywhere. A
Wow.
few days later, during a visit with one of his friends, he
hmm
found out that the police had already matched his palm print to the fingerprints because his friend was like, "Are you going to confess?" And he's like,
Wow.
"Why?" And he's like, "Well, it's all over the news that they have your palm print." And then
Dang.
Davis was like, "Okay, I can't get out of this one. Like,
Right.
I'm gonna try and get a deal." So he rings up one of the detectives and he's like, "I want a deal." So they're
Wow.
like, "Whatever." So they meet up. He confesses to kidnapping her and he concocts the stupidest story
Yeah.
ever. He confesses that he was not in the right frame of mind. He was wandering around looking for his mom's house. How does he not know where his mom lives? But whatever. So he's
Right.
wandering around, he's drinking. Then he says he bought some weed, which he thinks was laced with PCP. And
Mm.
he's just getting high and drunk. He goes and gets more beer.
Living it up.
Living it up, just having a ball. In the
hmm
meantime, remember that duffel bag we talked about?
hmm
Apparently, he had not his toothbrush, not his PJs. He had bindings in there, tape,
Wow.
scissors. But yeah, that's an overnight bag supposedly. So why is he carrying
Dang.
around this kidnapper 101 kit with him if he didn't have plans to do anything menacing with that bag, with those tools? Like he's
Exactly.
innocent, really? So
Yeah. Come
anyways,
on.
no. So he's like looking around for his mom. with his bag. And the next thing he knows, he's climbing into the window of some random house. And maybe he picks up a knife and he just walks towards where he hears the voices. And then he says, next thing I know, I look down and I'm in my car and I see this little girl sitting in my car next to me. The hell?
Okay, that's pathetic. Come on. Like, you
So
already know
he's,
you're going to jail. You're going to
yeah,
prison, buddy.
yeah.
Just
So
say
he's,
it.
yeah, exactly. So he's driving around for a while trying to figure out what to do. Then he gets his Ford Pinto stuck. And he says he takes Polly out of his car. He went to go drop her off in the woods, okay, unharmed. And that was it. But then he says that's when he had the run in with Dana and the cops. And then he's like, oh, I have to do something about this because she's seen my face. So I actually should probably go back and kill her.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes back and he says he strangled her to death and left her. And then, but he didn't leave her there because they searched that area. So he said, you know what? I'm going to take you to where I actually left her. So he did. It was an abandoned field. And on December 6th, 1993, they found her body in this field covered under some boards. And so they examined it, and I don't want to go, there's so many details as to like the state of her body and everything that I just don't want to like bring that image, up of her.
Exactly.
But apparently they found evidence that he had maybe like assaulted her and before killing her. So because that condom, remember that that condom, and apparently they found semen, but he kept saying, where did you find it? And then they're like, on her. Yeah, but not in her, alluding to the fact that what he did with her wasn't penetration. And so I'm just gonna leave that there because this guy was worried that word was going to get out that he sexually assaulted a child, and he didn't want to have a bad time.
Exactly. He had already been in the pen, so he knew what that meant.
Yep.
If you went back, knowing the charges that you were carrying. And what a freaking coward, though.
Coward till the ending, I swear to God, because he never admitted to it. Like, he always just maintained that he has no idea how she ended up in his car and that he had no choice but to kill her. So,
wow.
Yeah. That happened. And but he also, strangely enough, he kept saying that he hoped nothing came out in additional evidence that would contradict him denying it. So that's something.
Wow.
And,
gosh.
Like his trial, it didn't start for like till 2 years, after this whole thing. So it started in April.
Right.
His defense attorneys tried so hard to just maintain that he didn't sexually assault Polly, to make sure to have the death penalty taken off the table. They also tried to make this whole thing into like, oh, this was just a botched robbery gone wrong. This was just an accident. Whoops. But the judge wasn't buying that, because on June 18th of the same year, just a couple months later, he was found guilty of 10 felony counts, including the charge of attempted lewd acts. And like we said, as soon as the verdict came out, and this stuck with both of us, is the image of him flipping off the news cameras, winking, blowing kisses, all that, whatever. And when he gave his statement, that's the other thing that will forever haunt me. Not just the picture of him flipping off, everyone, but when he said that Polly asked him not to assault her and quote unquote, don't do me like my daddy does. Like, that will forever haunt me, because I can hear Mark wailing, and apparently he lunged at him. And he had to be taken out of the court. It's like, this man, how dare you insinuate that she was like abused by her dad, who was like, there was never any like hint of that anywhere ever. Like, she was so close to her dad. And it's just like, it was such an outrageous accusation. And to do this to an already grieving dad, like, this is the state of how his daughter was found. I mean, they went over like the state of her remains, how they were found, and they had pictures, and I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
And that's the thing. And that's I mean, for someone like him, I
Yeah.
don't think that someone like him should even be given the opportunity to say anything. Because what could he possibly have to say that could make anything better? You know what I mean? I mean, okay, apologize, but that still is not going to bring her back. And then it just gives him the opportunity to say some shitty stuff like that.
Oh my God. I mean,
Nasty,
it's
horrible, awful things. I mean, that's the last thing a parent who just lost their child needs to hear is some crap that you made up, hoping that you could, I don't know, make people think differently of you, or I don't know. Because at that point, you've already been charged. You've already, you're guilty, right? You've already been found guilty.
yeah.
I mean, it's not going to change anything, but that's so disgusting.
It
I mean,
was disgusting. Yeah.
clearly the devil.
Oh yeah, that's what the devil looks like right there. He has no soul behind those cold eyes, and it's like I
Mm-mm,
hate. And Mark even said he's like, I hate that the last thing that my daughter had to see was his face before she
mm-hmm,
died. So that stays with me too. Like it's
mm-hmm.
just I'm so like I just, I'll never ever forget her. And I
Yeah.
don't think anyone will. Like this, she was America's child, It
Mm-hmm,
was just so like this whole thing like could have been, it could have
mm-hmm.
ended differently had like the Petaluma PD and Sonoma County had they shared like the same,
Frequency or radio,
frequency
whatever.
and like if things or if the people called in to report a strange man standing outside someone's home for however
Mm-hmm.
long, all this
Definitely.
thing, it could have ended a lot differently. And unfortunately, she lost her life as a result of just all these like she was failed.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of good came from this horrible, horrible event, like Mark, my God, he's such an angel. Like he started like the Polly Klaas Foundation, which is
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to keep kids safe, finding missing kids.
Yeah.
He also is the founder of Class Kids,
Mm-hmm.
which helps to save kids who are exploited by,
Mm-hmm.
predators of like
Right.
sexual crimes in the Bay Area, like
Mm-hmm.
things like that. He's very involved in that. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, this three strikes legislation. So do you want to share anything about that? Because I know you were talking prior to
Yeah.
this. It's a
There's
lot.
It is.
uh,
Especially because, when you're a mom, it just makes you think like,
yeah.
I can't even imagine the things that were going through both of their heads. But this case, though, was very, in many ways, very, very, like it sparked something with the
Mm-hmm.
judicial system, how
Yep.
they look at crimes now. And this case sparked the beginning of the three strikes movement. And
Yep.
it was voted by California to be something that was going to be basically, if you committed, what is it, two violent crimes,
Mm-hmm.
felonies, and then was convicted of another felony. So
Yep.
that would be three strikes, and that would mean life in prison, right? A
25
life
years to
sentence.
25 years to life sentences for
Exactly.
that third. Yeah. And 30 other states have also passed a similar law as a result.
Wow. And I think that, I mean, we were just talking about this before, and I think that, our prison system, I don't know if you've ever visited a jail or a
Yes.
prison before,
Years ago.
but I used to work for the court,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a jail tour. And, me and you are the same. Like, we have very soft, sensitive hearts, and even when I see criminals, okay, you feel bad, especially when you see them in their element, especially young ones, right? Because
Yeah.
gosh, they just threw away their whole life, right? But when you go into the jails or even prisons, okay, because unfortunately I have some family members that have been there, um it is, I don't think that it should be a place that people would want to go. Isn't that the whole point of prison?
You would think. You would
But they
think.
have television. They're able to work out. They have it's comfortable.
They do have amenities, that's for
Yeah.
damn sure.
And I don't understand where there should be two separate types of prison. The ones for the misdemeanors or the felonies that are
Mm-hmm.
like more drug related, or, robberies, whatever. But murders and sexual assault, whatever it is, they should be in a place where they are not given any type of pleasure. They should be in hell,
I agree.
hell on earth. And it's not a matter of, oh, that's inhumane. Like, in my personal opinion, it's not inhumane, because what they did to someone, they literally stripped their, what is it? Their, gosh, their freedom,
Yeah.
their, just
Everything.
everything,
Their
is
rights are
their
just taken
whole
away.
life.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
exactly.
just, to me, I just feel like this case really brought a lot to the table, and how important certain laws are now, when it comes to criminals. And when, even there are so many things. It's not just that, and I know it's like way too much to get into, but even the DNA aspect, like
Mm.
back in the day in the 90s, DNA wasn't really a huge thing. And like you mentioned with the, I was going to say paw print, but basically, because he's an animal, the palm print, um,
Yeah.
if you look it up, it's very interesting on how, like, they literally found fibers
Yep.
from, I don't know if it was a carpet or if it
Yes,
was,
in his car.
yeah, and they literally found fibers from that and were able to somehow match that
Isn't
to,
it amazing?
I'm just like, and when you really listen and hear how they went about that, it was the first time they ever did anything like this. And
Yeah.
it kind of sparked that and how important DNA is,
Yes.
in so many cases.
Essential.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really essential to just tie it all. It's like putting a nice bow on a
Hmm.
gift. It's like, okay,
Definitely.
it's the tape that holds the paper together. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like that's what you need.
Definitely.
No. And then you know how we were talking about how the radio frequencies, like had they chatted,
Hmm.
maybe this would have been different. Now, this case, like it created new techniques for tracking,
Hmm.
lost or kidnapped children. California, at least, I only looked up
Hmm.
California, requires all missing children reports and descriptions of the suspects to be
Hmm.
like on all radio channels. So
Right.
everyone and every jurisdiction is involved. So
Hmm.
I think that is like extremely important. And it's sad that it took this case for that to come to be. I'm shocked that, okay, the 90s wasn't like caveman era. Like, why wasn't that already a thing? If you already had the
Right.
tools, you had the
Hmm.
radio. What?
Exactly.
But
Imagine
okay.
it. Imagine in the 80s.
Oh
Oh.
my good God. Well, in the 80s, that was like kidnappers. Like
Hmm.
it was like every time I turned around, there was a kidnapping. Like my
Yes.
mother was terrified,
No,
like
for
it was,
real. Yeah.
gosh. And nowadays,
And
you don't
that's the
hear
thing
it
with
that
this
much.
case, and that's why it hit us so hard, was like we said earlier, there was things that we were doing that Polly and her friends were doing that was relatable, but it just kind of tied into how we grew up, in the fact that when we grew up, that we saw people's faces on milk cartons. We
Ugh.
were always hearing about kidnappings. Like, there was another girl named Michaela,
Yep.
can't remember her last name, but Michaela, I just remember anytime I hear anybody whose name is Michaela, I remember her because I believe she was on her bike or something, and she was going into a store and she was kidnapped, and it scared the living crap out of me. And it's the
Mhm.
same effects of how this case with Polly, same thing. It's just something that stuck in your head, because when you're a little kid, everything seems so much bigger and so much scarier, right? So you don't realize that, oh, can it come to our house? And in this case, it did, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that, that's the thing. And I don't know if I heard you say this or not, but how did he get in? He got in through the back, but the door, was it unlocked, or was
There
it?
were reports that the front door was unlocked, but he admitted to climbing in from the window.
Mm. Okay,
So,
so if he climbed in through the window, those two boys didn't see it in the back?
okay. I mean, it was dark and he was wearing dark clothing, but still.
Yeah, but see, okay, that's the thing. You see someone that, he doesn't look familiar. I'm gonna keep my eye on him. Okay? What is wrong with you fools?
I don't know. I swear to
See,
God, it is
it makes me
so,
so angry. Because, okay,
it
so I have a
does.
question for you, Steph. So if you're, okay, so Sally Sue down the hall from you, okay?
Yeah.
You notice something, you hear something weird, you're looking at your peephole, whatever, or you're looking out the window. Are you going to say something, like what would you do in that instance? Like, I know nowadays a lot of people don't want to get involved. Technology and things were different back then, but like you said, there were so many people that saw stuff. Like, what would you do?
Now, I think I'm more educated now in the sense that maybe it's this case and maybe, it has a lot to do with it, but I'm addicted to like crime podcasts, crime shows, all that stuff, the ID channel. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have tried my hardest to not be that bystander that does nothing. Like I've called the cops regularly if I see something, if I see like a strange suitcase somewhere, I
Mm-hmm.
take note.
Definitely. Okay.
If I see someone weird, like the other day, something happened. Oh, there was a couple fighting outside of our window
Uh-huh.
on Saturday. And we looked, we
Oh.
assured ourselves that they weren't crack whores or anything. Like they were just, it was literally just this young couple, but they were yelling. And I was like, you know what? Let me pay attention to their description, their names, just in case of
Mm-hmm.
anything. It was just a lover's quarrel. But
Uh-huh.
if something happened, God forbid, we have like the descriptions
Mm-hmm.
of John and Mary. So
Right.
like I would like to think that if I saw something strange in my neighbor's like at the door or whatever, I would call the cops. I
Definitely.
just Cuz you just never know nowadays. And if you're wrong, okay, that's fine. Like when I've called the cops about like random lady in my driveway, like
Right.
I feel bad that I'm bothering the cops, but like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, I don't know if this is an emergency, but this made me feel weird. Like better to be safe than sorry. So I want to be a pest,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're annoying,
Mm-hmm.
chances are you will stay alive.
Right. No, that's true.
Because have you ever heard that phrase? She walked into a room and lit it up. But then that
Mhm.
woman, whenever you hear about like when something's happened to them, it's because they
Mhm.
always lit up a room. So I've seen a
Mhm.
meme that says, that's why I try to be a storm cloud whenever I walk into any room. Hell yes. Hell yes.
You're funny.
Or eat all the cupcakes because it's really hard to kidnap a chubby person. Like,
Yes,
hey, you're
exactly.
here. You know what I mean? Like, let's do this.
Right? No, for real, you gotta think ahead. And hey,
Right?
I mean, no one's gonna be okay, no one's gonna be carrying my ass out. That's for damn sure.
No,
Okay, shoot.
no, it's true though. And I know you as a mom, like you have your head, you're like, Linda Blair of The
Mhm.
Exorcist at all times because you want to make sure that your kid's going to be safe.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, so I know your ass would call the cops.
Oh, hell
Like, I'm
yeah.
sorry, so and so is weird right now. Come get him.
Okay, I had the cops on speed dial. Okay, for a long time. Anything I saw that was weird, out of pocket, I'm seeing, kids in the street, they're not supposed to be, whatever, I'm calling the police. And I don't know
Wait,
if it's the fact that my dad was a police officer, but I'm like, hello? They're like,
do you
Justine.
please tell me that you're wearing a house coat and pink curlers while you do it?
You know it. Okay, because I'm sure I had a robe every now and then. Because I am sorry. I literally, one time I was driving in an alley and literally this family, this father was, I don't know what he was doing, but he started hitting his kid randomly in
No.
the street, like beating him. And so I was like, oh no. And so I kept looking and I called the police and I was like, this is what I saw, blah, 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 this unsafe environment. The thing is, it's like a welfare check, like, and it's not me being Karen, it's not me being nosy, but like you said, it's a matter of
Mhm.
you may be saving someone's life. You just don't know,
Exactly.
you
You
know?
never know.
For example, we've seen many things recently that have transpired, like the Brian Landry. How do you say his last name?
Yeah.
The one in
Laundry,
Utah. Mhm.
Landry. No, I think either way.
Yeah.
Whatever. He's a
In
douche.
Utah, when they did that welfare check because someone had
Yes.
noticed they were arguing and stuff like that. Like,
And she was crying and
exactly. And, of course, hindsight is 2020. They should have done something about it because now look at what happened, but I mean, someone noticed something odd and they called it, they called it in. Okay. And it actually probably helped the case in the sense that, okay, well, something was amiss back here because why was she crying? It had to maybe do with him, blah, blah, blah. Right. The same thing with the murders in Utah. Was it Utah?
yeah.
Is that-
Yeah.
same thing. Like when you think of DNA, like all this stuff you could relate back to Polly Klaas, like some of the stuff that they did and how far advanced they are
Oh
now.
my God. I mean,
But
yeah.
when you think of just people, like we talked about this maybe about when we first were talking about doing this case, right? And talking about it, we were talking about the fact that it's crazy how in Polly's case, how with the Utah murders, okay, you know what? I have a brain fart. I can't remember what I was gonna say.
We love brain farts here. No, don't worry. Because we've been going on for a while. This is a
And it was a
lot.
really good point. Crap.
That's okay. You
But
can always.
you know what? Maybe I'll bring it up next time. I don't know. I just can't. You know what? I've been suffering with colds for since November, so
Yeah, since November 1997. I feel like that's how long it's
for
been.
real, the viruses have taken over my brain
Oh my
cells.
God.
Like,
No, 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 Nate, no. But seriously, like everything that you said is true. It all ties back to this
mm-hmm.
case. And unfortunately, like we said, it's sad that
Oh, now I
she
remember.
uh-huh.
But it was really quick how we were talking about the mom and
Oh
how
yeah.
how it was just fishy on how she didn't like how convenient was it that she took the medication and they say supposedly she maybe had some wine, right? Um as a mom, like I would not be if I know that I have my child but also two kids that aren't mine.
Oh
I'm on
God.
high
Yes.
alert. Like I don't care if I'm having an aneurysm. Okay. I'm gonna not take any medication because I'm responsible for someone else's children. Okay.
Amen.
And I just find it very odd that she chose to do that and then went to bed and was like, peace out, have fun. Because sleepovers back in the day, we used to try and stay up until sunrise.
Exactly.
Okay, so you
Exactly.
can't tell me, and they weren't like little, they weren't like 9. Okay, they were
No.
about to be teenagers. So they're in that prime of like, okay, let's try and stay up all night. And so if this had taken place now, like the Utah murders and how everybody was involved on Twitter and everything else,
Yeah.
things might have gone differently because everybody's going to have their assumptions. And people, like you said, we really didn't hear about Eve at all.
No. Nope.
It was all Mark. And I think that's why, like for us, it hit home is because we were so close to our dads too. And we kind of put ourselves in Polly's shoes in the sense of like, oh my God, how would our dads feel or how would our
Right.
parents feel if that happened to us? Because you could feel the heartbreak and just you could see it in his eyes. He didn't even have to say anything, you
No,
know?
not at all. It was
And it was
all in
just
his face.
exactly. And that's what to me would be like, where's the mom? Like this is your daughter. Like I don't care if you didn't have a good relationship with Mark, because maybe things went down and that's why you have a daughter the same age. But, you know, it's still your daughter. And I would be like, okay, oh my God, I need something. But you really didn't
Hmm.
hear about from her at all.
No.
And for a lot of sleuths nowadays, in 2023, they'd be like, okay, where was the mom?
Hmm.
She was MIA the whole time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with shame because
Yeah,
she's
guilt.
still struggling with that. I can't
Mhm.
imagine. I mean, I half of me is like, "What the hell, lady?" The other half of me really feels for her. So I'm just
Yeah.
like,
I
she
mean,
probably, yeah,
it's just one of those things. It's a tough case and it's like you said, it's one of those things no matter how old we are, we will always remember Polly. But one thing
we
I
sure
will
will.
remember about her is how beautiful she was cuz she had one of those faces that like I don't even have to like look her up. Anytime
No,
anybody says her name, it just
it's
you see the
singed in
pretty
my
hair,
memory.
yeah, her
Hmm.
pretty smile,
Her
and it's just
eyes.
yeah, and it's just so sad and uh I don't know. It's awful.
Yeah. And also, whenever you hear Somewhere Out There by Linda
Oh
Ronstadt,
yeah, oh my
that was her favorite
gosh.
song. And they played that at her funeral. And well, she was there singing it, I believe. And it's just like she was beloved and she will always, always stay, you know, in our
Mhm.
memories. Cause yeah, we're all her.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree. I really do. And it's just I don't I'm gonna look it up. I wonder what Mark Klaas did his profession before.
I think he had a car dealership.
It was a car dealer. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I was just thinking, it was like, nowadays when you think of crimes and you think of stuff like that, they always say, like, oh, maybe they were well off. And that's why it got a lot of media attention and all this stuff. Because right off the bat, I feel like we really heard everything pretty quickly. Like the minute she was kidnapped, it was like all over the news, and
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did
Mhm.
look it up. He was working for Hertz,
Wow. So
the
he's
the
just an
rental. So it was
average
of
Joe.
cars. Yeah, he
Yeah,
was just all
exactly.
American. This was an all American family, even down to the whole parents being separated and all that, and
Yeah. Wow.
very close to her parents. But I'm really glad that we got a chance to talk about her
Me
today.
too. And I think it was,
Yeah.
like you said, we don't know how often we'll do these, but we wanted to start off with her because it was something that um, people our age, our generation, it was really huge in the 90s.
Yes.
And
Yeah. It
so,
was only fitting that
yeah,
we start with
exactly.
her.
But yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
let us know what you guys think. Do you guys want to hear more cases? Please,
Mhm.
please don't be shy. Let us know. And we really hope that you're enjoying Totally 90s podcast because we're having a ball doing it. I mean, I get to see my bestie regularly. Hello.
Okay,
I'm
definitely.
winning. Hashtag
For
winning.
sure. Okay. And also, if they have any suggestions on maybe cases or things that had happened during the
Definitely.
90s that really affected them,
Yeah,
send us a message and we can do some research on our end.
we can make that happen. Yeah, but until next time, we're gonna sign out right now. So, Neen, I'll catch you on the flip side.
Sounds good. Peace out, my friends.
Bye.
Bye.